Welcome. This is Pep Talk Tuesday. Today is April 3rd, 2018. And before I get into some other stuff, I just want to start with the aspects for the week. Um, so this is a good week. This is such a good week. We needed this like fresh air and cleared out skies after that storm we just kind of went through, right? So this week, Venus has moved into Taurus. Yay. Venus has moved into its own sign of Taurus. And as it is doing that, it is trining Mars and Saturn. So there's a lot of relief and progress that can be made right now. So for those of you who have reached your tipping point under this full moon T-square and have just gotten to the point where literally enough is enough, um, this is the week to make hay while the sun shines. So get yourself organized, start planting those seeds, and work with it, baby. Work with it. Now, there's a caveat because there's always a caveat. Um, because God loves jokes, and nature has quite the sense of humor. So Mercury, while we're doing all this stuff this week, please bear in mind that we are under a Mercury station. So Mercury will go direct in about a week, but we're feeling it now. We're definitely feeling it now. So what that means is for those of you who are about to start jobs, sign paperwork, sign documents, contracts, make schedules, anything in terms of structure and formation, and beginning stuff right now, don't panic. It's not the end of the world. You can still do it. This is actually a great time to do it. Phenomenal time to do it. Venus trine at Mars, Saturn. Oh, honey, please. This is a phenomenal time for secure long-term growth in terms of really establishing a power base to build resources with or from. However, the fly in the ointment is that Mercury is making its station direct. So while Mercury is under its station, one of the things we need to know, because it's still retrograde right now, is that all of these things that have to do with things that you sign, contracts, documents, schedules, the little details, the fine print, all of these things are subject to change sooner rather than later. So whatever you're starting with, go in with an open mind and flexibility and understand that whatever you're starting with is not what you're ending up with. There will be a lot of changes before this is over. Now, because Venus is trining Mars and Saturn, this will be changes that will end up being extremely beneficial sooner rather than later. So go with the flow, but like I said, don't try not to get too locked into a very rigid, like this is how it's going to be, and then try to like build everything around this schedule, commitment, contract, whatever you're starting, this initiative you're starting right now. So try not to get into uh, too rigid or locked in schedules because all of this is going to change. So we want to make sure that everybody's kind of in rhythm and in sync with each other before we start rolling out additional moving parts. So that's the only comment I would have. Other than that, I would say go forth and multiply, my friends. Make hay while the sun shines. This is the week to do it. And for those of you who don't have big life-changing agendas on the table, this is a great time to make some participate in the consumer Olympic sport of shopping. This is a great time to purchase stuff, not electronics, um, that will increase in value or investments, just not electronics. Or anything to do with computers and technology. I was actually trying to live stream this a few minutes ago, and the live stream cut off like 4 times in the process of a 6-minute video. So I'm just recording it ahead of time and setting it up this way. So that is your thing. Now, also on the 8th, we will close out this week with a quarter moon in Capricorn, which will trine, make an almost exact trine to Venus in Taurus. Oh, such yummy aspects. And that, of course, will involve Pluto. So some of you may find that as we get closer to this quarter moon, this is the time when we really make a choice, about things that could have long-term ramifications. So it's not as simple as it appears, and it's not as um, earth-shaking as it sounds. So it's, we often think that big changes in our life occur with big moments, but it's not true at all. The biggest changes in our life start with little tiny moments, the tipping point. Okay. So as we get closer to this quarter moon, some of you may be making small changes that are going to lead to huge, huge beneficial, life-changing changes later on. So things as simple as starting a diet, which leads to getting involved in fitness, which then leads to competitions, which then leads to, blockbuster New York Times selling fitness books. Could happen, but it would all start with this one little thing you didn't think anything about. "No, I'm just gonna, clean up my diet a little bit, or I'm gonna do a cooking thing on YouTube, about how to make, gluten-free stuff, because I can't find anything, for me. So clearly I'm gonna have to do it myself, or building things like working on little like birdhouses, as silly as that sounds, literally working on things as like little birdhouses and then selling them on Etsy or on eBay or something like that. And then next thing you know, it turns into like this custom craft woodwork brand, that becomes this really lucrative side gig for you, so there are a number of ways that these things could play out long term in the future that could have huge beneficial impact, but they all start with, the proverbial single step, or the little things. So whatever you're feeling inspired or motivated to do, I would suggest you go with it. Go with it. Couldn't hurt, And what else do we have but time and the remainder of life that we have, which we're not even guaranteed how much of that we got. So that is your scope for the week. And now we're going to get into Pep Talk Tuesday. So for those of you who want to hang around, you can. I will preface this by saying this is more specific to folks who are over 40. So if you're under 40, the rest of the video may not be of any interest to you. And it might be, but just so you guys know. So the tipping point for me this week has had a lot to do with authenticity. Like, who am I really? And what on earth have I been doing to myself? And why do I keep going around in circles, right? So I got literally, it just kind of reached a very quiet critical mass, and something inside kind of fell into place. And then this one little thing, because I've got a bunch of quincunxes in my chart and yads, right? So this one little thing, tick, 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 ting, like fell into place. And then suddenly everything else made sense. Oh my God, like why couldn't I have figured this out 30 years ago, right? But apparently all this time I've needed all of these other experiences to add to my skill bank and my knowledge bank. Um, because for me, in my personal life, a lot of what I do has less to do with me, um, and more to do with being here for other people. So I'm on a mission, whether I want to be or not. And a lot of the things that I have felt like I've gone through unjustly and unfairly have been, what is it, the exercises in collecting experiences so that I can absolutely speak from a compassionate place, because I've been there, done that, you know? So if you feel like you're kind of going through the same thing, it's okay. It may be that your life is not necessarily here for you to run in a straight line. You may have gone through all the rough and tumble stuff you've gone through specifically so that you can help act as a guide or a Sherpa to other people who go through similar situations behind you. I mean, it's kind of a thankless job, but it's an important one, you know? So with that said, reached tipping point, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I realized what has been backwards all this time. And a lot of it has to do with old programming. So much of what we do in life has to do with old programming we picked up in childhood through our families. And some of them meant well. Some of our families didn't mean well. Not everybody gets a great family. Um, but the problem is, as a child, you don't have a filter to filter out toxic messages, and you don't have any way to dispute what you're being told. You just accept it as truth because the adults should know, right? And certainly the adults who are supposed to care about you. So a lot of times we will carry around a lot of unhealthy, toxic, or completely inappropriate messages for who we are as individuals, that were programmed into us unwittingly by the people around us who are supposed to love us. But loving someone doesn't mean knowing them. And if you've ever been married, you guys know what I'm talking about. You can love somebody and still not know who you're dealing with. Not the same thing. Same thing with our kids. We can love our kids, not necessarily know who our kids really are, which is probably one of the greatest benefits of astrology, is it allows us to pull back and get more objective about the individual, that's incarnated as our child into this lifetime. So we have a better handle of how to deal with them, rather than projecting our fears and concerns onto them, because that's all we have to work with. So having done that, I've also made some decisions that involve taking a leap of faith, as it were. So I've been trying to, Mercury's been retrograde and everything's about to go retrograde. I can't think of a worse time to try and change jobs. So, but I can't, I've decided this week that it's just enough is enough and I can't do this anymore. And I'm not going to do this anymore. And staying where I am has a lot more to do with fear than common sense or any type of practical benefit later. And rationalizing it any other way doesn't change that fact. So I'm out of there. And I'm trying to get some stuff orchestrated to kind of move or slide into to kind of hold on to in the interim while I get all the other moving parts of my life sorted out. Um, but Mercury is retrograde and now it's making its station, so we can't guarantee how these things will play out. And I'm okay with that. And April's going to be a hell of a month, right? But I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, there's an African proverb: when there's no enemy within, there can be no enemy without, right? So it's very much about being in a good place with yourself. So when you're in a healthy, positive place with yourself, literally, oh, sorry, you can make a good life for yourself with almost nothing because it's not about stuff, right? It's about resources, having what you need to get what you need to get done. That's really what it's about. Everything else is just, consumerism. So if you're not in a healthy place with yourself, the problem is you become like a tapeworm and nothing satisfies, and you're constantly needing more and more and more. You need more and more stuff to justify all the pain and suffering and misery you're living in. You need more validation from the external world in the form of, pats on the back and awards and status and all that sort of stuff to convince yourself that it's all worth it, and that selling your soul and dying 1,000 deaths every day, is a small price to pay for this, but look at who I am, you know? So there's a price to be paid when we're in a toxic place. Now, the thing about it is, by the time you hit midlife, a lot of your relationships are pretty much set. Your friends are defined, you're defined, everybody's lifestyles are defined, your friendships are defined on your lifestyles. Your family relationships clearly are very defined at this point because now we're adults and we can make decisions about which of our family members we interact with and how seriously we take them. There's a lot of stuff that has fallen into place and it's kind of anchored itself into position, which doesn't give us a lot of freedom to move. It's not the same thing as when we're 20 and everything's wide open because we're not anchored to anything yet. Um, and this can make it more challenging. And this is why we often feel stuck and trapped by the time we get here. So one of the things that happens for a lot of people is they get to this point and they have the proverbial midlife crisis, right? So, and a midlife crisis will happen in one of two ways. Either you will have the midlife crisis that says, oh my God, like what have I done? And my life is almost over and I'm getting old and I'm dying and nothing works. And oh Jesus, no, but I haven't done this yet. And then, they'll either go off and buy a sports car and get a girlfriend that's like younger than their kids to try and reclaim their youth, their lost youth, or um, it will go the other way and be like, wait a minute, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Like, this can't be my life. Like, I fulfilled all my obligations personally and socially and professionally. And this is it. Like, I have everything I want or I don't have everything I want. Either way, I'm not feeling it. I'm just, no, this is it? Really? Um, at which point, the tipping point then becomes hopefully an examination of how we have failed ourselves and what we have been afraid to pursue in terms of our authentic living and our authentic self. And that's when we say, you know what? I don't have to do this anymore. And we go and we live the life we've been wanting to live, but we've been too afraid to admit is really who we are. And then, we become what is it, the high power corporate attorney who gives it all up and starts a worm farm in California, or we become the housewife who decides to move to Peru, and become a mountain trekking, tourist guide or whatever, like pick something really like, whoa. So sometimes you'll get that too. And for a lot of other people, it's much less dramatic, but no less significant in terms of life changes. So you may be here too. Um, and the thing that I would say is that this is the time. This is the time. And if you're not feeling it right now because of this full moon T-square, you're definitely going to be feeling it when we get down into this new moon in Aries with Uranus, because Uranus rules the middle ages of life and Saturn definitely rules long-term plans and the future and legacy and also old people. So we're definitely feeling it. And this is the time to ask those questions. You're going to be amazed at some of the most brilliant things that come up, because being authentic and being honest about who you are, not with other people, but with yourself, you know, and really getting honest about what you've been afraid to admit to yourself about who you really want to be, because you're afraid you weren't good enough, or you would get ridiculed, or you would fail at it, or all the mis inappropriate, misguided programming you got as a child. This is the time to examine that and dismantle it, because we're free now, or we should be. So, if you're feeling it, it's okay. Just go when you're going through hell. Keep going, Winston Churchill. Just go with it and keep going through it, and you're going to be amazed with the brilliance that comes up through this. Um, and it's all good. It's all good, you know. So the other thing to keep in mind also is, when it comes to relationships, you might be surrounded by toxic relationships. It happens, you know, and there are people in your life who are not necessarily, and a toxic relationship is defined as any relationship where these people are not supportive of you being the best version of yourself you can be. And if anything, are enablers, or worse, saboteurs, you know, who undermine your ability to make forward progress and want to keep you where you're at, which clearly is not where you're doing your best or where you're happy, because they want to be comfortable. And if you change, that means they have to change, and that's disruptive to them, and that's not okay. Those would be considered toxic relationships. Um, and obviously relationships are people who are destructive to you, and like overtly, obviously undermining you and hurting you and gaslighting you and all this sort of really abusive stuff. Clearly, those are toxic relationships too. So in all those cases, the thing about it is, you're not going to get anywhere until you clear out the crap from your life. So you've got to get rid of those toxic relationships if you're ever going to get free of the chains that hold you to your misery. You've got to ask anybody who's ever been in recovery from drugs or alcohol, and they'll tell you a lot of those old relationships had to go because they were toxic. And they weren't toxic because these people were trying to ruin this person's life. They were toxic because these people were enabling them, in their own toxic behaviors. So they were not necessarily encouraging, but certainly some of them were encouraging, but certainly enabling them, in behaviors for that person that were toxic to themselves. Those are toxic relationships. And anybody who's been through recovery will tell you those relationships have to go, because they're toxic. They're not positive and helpful and supportive. They're toxic. So it's the same thing, even if you're not necessarily dealing with recovery from something. So these relationships have to go. Now, the thing about it is, there's a temptation, especially when we're in a stuck place, to be like, oh, this is all your fault, and I can't believe, and all this time I spent, and you blah, 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 you. So it's very easy to do, and easy targets are always the wrong targets. So when you catch yourself doing that, the most important thing um, you have to remind yourself of is, these relationships only exist because you participate in them. So if you have toxic relationships around you, you have to understand that these relationships are a reflection of you and your relationship with yourself. You have participated in these relationships. You have pursued and or allowed these relationships to exist in your life. These people did not force themselves into your house, your home, your bedroom, your life, and say, nope, I'm here. I'm just going to poison the well, and you're going to put up with it, and you're going to like it. No, at some point, you made the choice to have this relationship with this person, and you made the choice to participate in this relationship in such a way that allowed them to flourish, and thrive in a way that creates a toxic relationship for you. So you have to own that. You have to own that. And then you can start working on untangling yourself from these things. And it won't be easy. It will not be easy, but it will be necessary, and it will be important, and you will find that it will be best for everyone. Because unless you want to stay stuck, you got to move on. And those people might want to stay stuck. I mean, that just might be where they're at, and you can't control that. And that's okay. I mean, if that's where they're comfortable being, they can be there. They're allowed to be who they are and who they want to be. You don't have to be there with them. Okay. So this is the month to kind of go through the psychological closets. and the attics and the basements and kind of see what's down there and start throwing stuff out, But first, this is all about what's inside us first. If you change yourself, your relationships have to change or they have to go away. That's the way it works. So, um, this is your Pep Talk Tuesday. We've got quite the month ahead of us, in a very, very good way if we use this to our advantage. So hang in there, kids. Hang in there. And remember, this week, the week of March, or March, the week of April 1st, to April 8th, this is a phenomenal week to make hay while the sun shines. So get out and do stuff that feels good to you. Do stuff that's going to make some positive improvements in your life. And if nothing else, this is a great day for shopping for things that are investments, just not technologies or electronics. And that's it. So we'll see you in the next broadcast, where we'll talk about the new moon. If you have any questions, feel free to write me at primalgirlwellness@gmail.com. If you're looking for readings, I am not doing readings. I'm on a hiatus until we get through April. So probably May, I'll be back at it again. Um, And you can always leave comments in the comment section. I'm more than happy to drop a little note if I can get some time in. And obviously, as always, like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this and think this might be beneficial to somebody else. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.